5 cap and go up to 100 because my attack input was just ridiculous. Um, and it would have made the fight significantly longer. I've noticed that in the in-game boss fights at Solo Level 1 go up to 10 minutes long. I'm like, man, screw that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to be perfect for such a long time. It's the ultimate endurance test, especially in
Yeah,
this game.
I just don't like endurance difficulties. That's pretty much where I draw the line. If it's something about 10 minutes long, I'm like, nah, it's not for me. I'll play
Nah.
something else.
Yeah, no,
It's about how
it's kind
Monster
of
Hunter ended up. I mean, I know I don't even know how what's the short. I mean, I realize if you get powerful enough, you can go back and fights don't last that long. But here's another thing. I want a good medium. I don't want fights to be too short. I don't want to walk into a boss and kill it in 5 hits. I want to go in there and spend time with it. Being able to avoid every move. I mean, you see how my boss reviews are. I mean, I explore basically most of the attacks because that's on purpose. I want that experience. I don't want to go in there, kill the boss in one shot, and be like, oh yeah, this boss was okay. It was pretty easy. Just went in there and one shot at him. I mean,
yeah.
with the Soldier of Godric, in the I don't know if you saw that review, but I think I spent a couple minutes on him, or maybe a
Just
minute.
that. Yeah.
I purposely had to one. I mean, I had to lower my weapon like severely because of how low his health was. I had to one hand the club and basically just bait out his attacks and go in and just hit him and circle around him and just basically try to see every attack he had, and it was
I
crazy
think
having to set him up like that.
Yeah, I think From Software did it on purpose. Honestly, they wanted the player to feel some sort of satisfaction right off the get go of defeating something,
Hmm.
and what more satisfaction can somebody get when they say, "Oh, I beat a boss," even though the boss is not really a boss; it's more like a regular enemy, just in a boss setting, if you will.
Hmm.
They had a lot of that in this game, which is fine because I understand the open nature of the game. They can't really if they had to design completely unique bosses for all of the bosses that they had. I feel like it would be too much, honestly. Especially for somebody like who wants to speedrun the game or play it more than once or do new game plus or play a second character, all that stuff. It has its pros and cons, in my opinion, to have certain recycled designs or certain bosses that are maybe the same bosses but scattered throughout the world.
Yeah, and
um
you can't have every boss at Dark Eater midder level. Definitely, I
right.
don't. I don't want
Yeah,
that at
exactly.
all. I mean,
you know
definitely a good mix, and I feel like Elden Ring has. I feel like they did that pretty well. I feel like some bosses still though have their health is just way too low though, but that's just me. I mean, maybe someone will go in there
no.
like you said and be like, oh well, I mean, it looks like I'm making decent progress and I'm motivated and I'll keep moving on.
Yeah, and I get it too because Breath of the Wild did the same thing, and I completely understand that. So the way that Breath of the Wild did it is Elden Ring sort of took inspiration from that and did it a little better, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Breath of the Wild made it so that it doesn't matter which direction you decide to go in the world. They just give you the map. They say you can go anywhere you want. It doesn't matter which direction you go. The game has a way of showing you a little bit of everything, no matter what path you decide to take.
Hmm.
And that's a good design philosophy because even if somebody doesn't play the full game, they'll still feel like they had a full experience. They still feel like, for the most part, they've met every enemy type or as many bosses as they can.
Hmm.
And I think that's a good design idea. The way that Breath of the Wild did it is the further away from the center of the map that you went, the more powerful the enemies that you would find and the different bosses. So if you go to the northeast corner of the map from the center, as you're going towards there, the enemies get progressively harder, progressively, more challenging, and you get to see basically every enemy type by going in that direction. And the same thing would happen if you go to like the southwest or southeast. You're, just completely different direction. you would still encounter, for the most part, every enemy type and every sort of level of that enemy type, if you will. And Elden Ring did a similar thing, which was good in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah. I didn't really play enough Breath of the Wild. I tried that game maybe twice, and I think the weapon durability thing I just couldn't really kept kicking me out of the experience.
That did not fly for a lot of people. They hated it, But at the end of the day, I think what the philosophy behind it, I understand, but I like when developers give players choice. I don't like being forced to use a different weapon. I like having the choice to use a different weapon. Yeah, give me all these weapons. That's
Mm.
great. I like it. But making them break so easily because you want to force me to try a different weapon, it's just, in my opinion, not the best. You want to let the player experiment, but at the same time, you don't want to force them to experiment.
Or at least
Yeah.
develop a mechanic where the weapon can repair, like in a very satisfying way. The weapon can repair, and something where you don't have to go way off to fix it. Just something you can
Yeah.
incorporate into the gameplay, where like, oh, if I have a chance, I can perform this move, and my weapon will be completely repaired in battle, or something like that. Like maybe parrying or something like that. You could possibly restore the weapon. I'm just kind of
No, I
thinking out
understand.
loud.
You're definitely adding a mechanic to make it so that if somebody wants to keep using the same thing, they can. It's just, you're going to have to do something in order to continue using what you like. I definitely understand that, and I would agree with that. Another thing they could have done was, since the game is so big and so vast, they could have made it so that you could find unbreakable versions of your favorite weapon, but they would be, in later areas of the game. Say, you find a broadsword that, you're using at the beginning of the game, it breaks because it's not that very good of a broadsword. But I don't know, you make it to this crazy tower like halfway across the map, and you find the same broadsword that you liked, but this one can't break. And that, I feel like that would not only incentivize people to kind of like explore more, because they would want to find all the unbreakable versions of their weapons or
Yeah,
whatever,
I mean it.
and at the same time,
Oh, sorry.
no, I was gonna, at the same time, it just gives them that, that will to experiment, because now that they found an unbreakable version of a weapon, of course they're gonna want to try it. Like when I was playing Breath of the Wild, I got to the point where I was hoarding weapons. I was saving weapons because I didn't know when I was gonna encounter, a big enemy that I would want to use one of these weapons on. So I would run around the map using all of the garbage weapons and then keeping all the good weapons and never using them because I didn't want them to break.
Right. I mean, it's almost a really good system, and I really hope that if the sequel somehow just takes it and just creates a really motivating system out of it, I'll definitely try it. And if I'm listening to a review and they're like, oh yeah, the weapon durability now is much more motivating and repairing it, blah blah blah, and it's got this system, I'm like, hey, okay, I guess I'll buy it and try it out. Maybe I'll like it.
Yeah, I have high hopes for the the sequel. I think they're gonna learn from some of the mistakes. Like, believe it or not, Breath of the Wild obviously is not a perfect game, but it did so much right. I can
Mm.
see them at least looking at the things that players didn't like and the things that they didn't actually get right, and look to see how they can make it more fun and not as annoying and tedious.
Hmm.